A horse in Yakima County has tested positive for West Nile virus. This is the first case of a non-mosquito animal in our state testing positive for the virus in 2025. To learn more about what's going on, we're joined by Washington State veterinarian Dr. Amber Idle. Thank you for being here, doctor.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me today.
Perfect. Thank you. We have your audio now. My apologies. Well, first, can you tell us about the infected horse and how West Nile was detected?
Yeah, this isn't uncommon for us to have West Nile virus appear about this time of year. And so we did get a detection from the Washington Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory, who confirmed a case of West Nile virus in a yearling thoroughbred colt in Yakima County. And typically this happens when we get, a lot of mosquitoes that become infected and increase the risk of those mosquitoes biting those horses and becoming infected.
Can a horse pass West Nile virus to other horses?
No, so that's the good news. I mean, they're considered dead-end hosts. So interestingly, wild birds are natural hosts for West Nile virus. And what happens is that mosquitoes actually bite those infected birds, and usually the birds don't get sick or die. They can, but they don't usually. And then the mosquitoes become infected, and then those mosquitoes bite the horses, and then that virus gets into the bloodstream of the horse, and it can cross over the blood-brain barrier and make the horse very, very sick. Horses and humans both are considered to be dead-end hosts. That means that they can't transmit the virus from horse to horse, or from horse to human, or from human to horse. So once they become infected, the virus can't go anywhere else.
Still very fascinating. And according to our state's health department, the overwhelming majority of mosquito samples positive for West Nile virus are in Yakima County. Do you know why the virus is so prevalent there?
Yeah, I mean, really we have to think about it in terms of what are the risk factors for having a lot of mosquitoes that are infected. And so I think this time of year, we see this with some other viruses as well, where, water starts to sort of dry up. So we might expect, we're not going to have as many, vector-borne diseases. But the reality is I think we get more and more, mosquitoes laying eggs in the same places. We might have more birds or more mammals congregating in those places where there is water. And so it might increase the number of mosquitoes that are infected. And also, I think in Yakima and Eastern Washington, we typically see this more often, I think because it's hot over there. And so those mosquitoes can lay eggs and they can hatch out more rapidly than maybe what we see on the west side. And just to keep in mind that, West Nile virus really didn't exist in the United States until 1999. And so in the last 25 years, it's now in all 48 states, and it has affected horses everywhere. And so, we have to really think about those risk factors that with climate change and just with, the patterns of vectors and movement into different geographic areas, we might anticipate seeing it in different parts of our state. But for years now, we've been seeing it really show up in Yakima County and Benton and Franklin and Grant. It seems to be that in that area is where we tend to see the most infections.
Are the symptoms the same for different animals and people? How do you guys measure that?
Yeah, so really it's just horses. Other than humans, about 96% of the cases are in horses. I think we did have an alpaca one year, which would be really unusual. But typically, clinical signs can vary. So they can be, just flu-like symptoms, but they can also be really severe. So if that virus crosses over into the brain, we get inflammation of all that neurologic tissue, and then we can see all kinds of different clinical signs. That could be incoordination, stumbling, lip smacking, head pressing, and then the worst case scenario is those horses can go down and become recumbent, and then about 30 or 40% of those will die. So it's not something that they recover from easily. But the good news is this is a preventable disease, and so really vaccination doesn't prevent infection, but it prevents the horse from really getting sick. I mean, that's the point of vaccination. So, that would be the one preventative way that we can keep horses healthy.
Well, speaking of, what are the other best ways for people in Yakima County to protect themselves and their animals against this virus?
Yeah, I think I just want to hit on vaccine one more time for horses, because it's so important that horse owners out there remember that you can't just give one vaccine and be done. These horses require a booster. So when they're babies, they need a shot. They need a booster 3 to 6 weeks later, and then they need an annual vaccine every year to boost that immune system to protect them. So that's probably the most important thing we can do to prevent the disease. The other thing we can do is we can bring our horses in at night. And even for humans, to protect ourselves, we can close our doors. We can put screens up to keep mosquitoes out of our houses. We can put horse blankets on our horses, and we as people can wear long sleeves, we can wear pants, and then we can also eliminate standing water. So anywhere you might have standing water, so maybe it's your horse's trough, make sure that gets dumped out. Make sure your buckets are dumped out and they're replacing that water regularly. Make sure there's no standing water around. You know, if you have a dripping faucet somewhere that's accumulating water, are there old tires laying around? Is there garbage somewhere that there's water in where mosquitoes are starting to go and lay a lot of eggs? We just want to prevent standing water in general. And I've even heard some people who have like ponds, you know, they start getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They'll put some fish in there to eat some of those mosquitoes to help manage that kind of risk of having mosquitoes around.
That's a new clever one. Dr. Amber Idle, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and have a good night.
You too.